Ahoy there, landlubbers and sea enthusiasts. In the remote and ancient landscapes of Australia's Kakadu National Park, a place of stunning beauty and untamed wilderness, a group of international tourists embarked on a journey that was meant to be full of excitement and unforgettable experiences. The leader of this group was Glenn Robus, a veteran tour guide who had spent 13 years guiding adventurers through the national park, showing them the magic of Australia's natural beauty. Among this group of tourists were two young women from Munich, Germany, Isabel von Jordan, 23, and her sister Valerie, 21. Both had recently graduated. Isabel had just earned her degree in interior design from the Technical University of Munich, where she had already gained national attention for her creative designs. This trip to Australia was not just a vacation for them, it was a celebration of their achievements and a well-earned break before they plunged into their new careers. Little did they know, their adventure was about to take a dark and terrifying turn, one that would end in tragedy and leave scars that would never heal. Australia's Kakadu National Park is a vast, breathtaking wilderness covering nearly 20,000 square kilometres. Known for its ancient rock art, its lush wetlands, and its diverse wildlife, the park attracts tourists from around the world. Unfortunately, the Von Jordan sisters were about to become part of this grim statistic. See, thousands of people come here daily for its mesmerizing beauty, but what went wrong with the Isabel von Jordan? A fateful decision. Glenn Robus, the group's guide, had led many tours through Kakadu without incident. His familiarity with the park gave him confidence, but it also made him complacent. After years of guiding tourists through the same trails, he had begun to downplay the risks of the wild. When they arrived at Sandy Creek Billabong on the final night of their 4-day trek, Glenn didn't think twice about suggesting a swim. The Billabong was calm and serene, its waters shimmering in the moonlight. Surrounded by trees and bushland, it seemed like the perfect place for the group to cool off and relax after a long day of hiking. The tourists gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and laughing, their guard lowered by the peaceful surroundings. Several of the tourists, however, were nervous about swimming in the Billabong. They had seen the warning signs about crocodiles and knew the stories of fatal attacks in Kakadu. When one of the tourists voiced their concern, Glenn was quick to dismiss their fears. "It's fine," he told them confidently. "Only freshwater crocodiles live here, and they won't harm you. The Aboriginal women have been swimming here for centuries. It's safe." Glenn even shone his flashlight over the water to prove his point. When no glowing eyes reflected back from the surface, the group hesitantly decided to trust him. After all, Glenn had been a guide in Kakadu for over a decade. Surely he knew what he was talking about. With their fears temporarily assuaged, several tourists, including Isabel and Valerie, waded into the cool, still water. The laughter resumed as they swam under the stars, unaware that a deadly predator lurked beneath them. The attack. The attack came without warning. One moment, Isabel was swimming and chatting with the others, and the next, she was gone, snatched by the jaws of a massive saltwater crocodile. The beast had been lying in wait beneath the surface, perfectly camouflaged in the dark water. It struck with lightning speed, pulling Isabel under before she even had a chance to scream. At first, her sudden disappearance seemed like a prank. One of the tourists jokingly asked, "Where's Isabel?" But as the seconds ticked by and she didn't resurface, the truth began to dawn on the group. Panic set in. James Rothwell, another tourist, had felt something brush against his leg moments before Isabel vanished. His heart raced as he scrambled out of the water, shouting for the others to get out too. Grabbing his flashlight, he aimed it at the water, praying he wouldn't see what he feared. But there, in the beam of light, the glowing eyes of the crocodile reflected back at him. And in its jaws was Isabel. Her sister Valerie screamed, her voice breaking the stillness of the night. The rest of the group was frozen in shock, too terrified to move. The crocodile, now fully visible in the moonlight, began dragging Isabel further into the depths, her lifeless body limp in its powerful jaws. The horror of the scene was overwhelming. There was nothing they could do. The group rushed to the shore, their minds reeling with fear and disbelief. Some tried to call for help, but in the remote wilderness of Kakadu, cell service was almost non-existent. They were stranded, hours away from help, with a deadly predator just feet away. All they could do was huddle together and wait, praying that somehow this nightmare would end. A night of terror. The hours that followed were filled with fear and helplessness. Valerie was inconsolable, her cries echoing through the night. She kept calling out her sister's name, hoping against hope that Isabel would somehow miraculously appear. But deep down, she knew the truth. Her sister was gone. The group tried to comfort her, but there were no words that could ease the pain of such a sudden, violent loss. Andrew Waters, a fellow tourist who had stayed behind to play his didgeridoo, could hardly believe what had just happened. He had been enjoying the peaceful evening, unaware that a deadly attack was unfolding just meters away. As the night dragged on, the weight of what had happened began to sink in. The tourists were trapped in a living nightmare, haunted by the sight of the crocodile's glowing eyes and the horrific sound of Isabel's scream. Every rustle in the bushes, every ripple in the water sent their hearts racing. They couldn't shake the feeling that the crocodile was still watching them, waiting for another opportunity to strike. At dawn, the park rangers finally arrived. Armed with harpoons and rifles, they launched a search for Isabel, knowing that they were likely looking for a body rather than a rescue. The hours of waiting had been torturous for the group, but now they faced the grim reality of what had happened. The rangers scoured the Billabong and its surrounding waters, hoping to find some trace of Isabel. After several hours, their worst fears were confirmed. Isabel's body was found in a nearby tributary of the South Alligator River, still in the jaws of the crocodile that had taken her. The massive creature had to be harpooned before they could retrieve her remains. The crocodile, nearly 4.6 meters long and weighing over 500 kilograms, had no intention of giving up its prize. Even in death, its sheer size and power were terrifying, a reminder of just how deadly these ancient predators could be. For Glenn Robus, the tragedy was devastating. His decision to allow the group to swim in the Billabong had cost a young woman her life, and he would never forgive himself for that mistake. Initially, Glenn faced charges of manslaughter, but these were later reduced to causing death by dangerous omission. He pleaded guilty and received a 3-year suspended sentence. Though he was spared from prison, the guilt he carried was punishment enough. The Von Jordan family was shattered by Isabel's death. Valerie, in particular, struggled to cope with the trauma of losing her sister in such a horrific way. The two had been inseparable, and now Valerie was left to face a world without her best friend. The fact that Isabel had not died instantly, but had drowned after being dragged under by the crocodile, only deepened the pain. She had fought for her life, but there had been no escaping the jaws of death. The incident shook the tourism industry in Kakadu. Questions were raised about safety measures and the responsibilities of tour guides. Should stricter rules be in place to prevent such tragedies? Could more be done to educate tourists about the real dangers of crocodile-infested waters? These were questions with no easy answers. But one thing was clear: Kakadu's beauty hid deadly secrets. The wild, untamed landscape that drew adventurers from across the globe was also home to some of the most dangerous predators on Earth. None is more feared than the saltwater crocodile, or salties as the locals like to call them. These giant reptiles are truly terrifying, not just because of their size, but because of their sheer power and deadly instincts. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest living reptiles on Earth. They can grow up to a massive 7 meters, about 23 feet, in length and weigh more than 1,000. Tourists often come to Kakadu unaware of just how dangerous these creatures can be. While the park's staff post warning signs at every waterway, urging caution and advising against swimming, many visitors assume that these dangers are exaggerated. But the locals know better. Salties are opportunistic predators, and they have been responsible for numerous fatal attacks on both humans and animals. This tragic tale serves as a stark reminder to all who seek adventure in the wild. Nature is not to be underestimated. While the thrill of exploring new places and experiencing the beauty of untamed wilderness is enticing, it's essential to respect the rules and heed the warnings. They exist for a reason. In the case of Isabel von Jordan, the danger was a massive saltwater crocodile, an ancient predator that rules its territory with ruthless efficiency. But in every wild place there are unseen threats. Whether it's the swift current of a river, the sudden onset of a storm, or the lurking presence of a predator, nature demands respect